Okay, this video is quotes. I'm going to do Arnold Schwartzenegger, Schultz, the comic book writer, the wrestler. I already did the wrestler a little bit in a previous video yesterday, but I'm also going to do Schuman, the composer. Okay, because this is from my quote book going in alphabetical order. So Arnold Schwarzenegger, the great bodybuilder, you know, he was the Austrian Oak and he was Mr. Olympia and he was a great bodybuilder. And when he was a young guy, you know, we liked him. He was a macho man. He was cool. He was another one of the, you know, the American all-around tough guy heroes. But he became real corrupt and he became a scumbag and we lost all respect for him. But when he was young, he was good. I think what happened is, I don't know the details of what happened, but I do know for a fact that when people go to Hollywood, they often get blackmailed into doing things that are very bad and disgusting, and then after that, they just become a scumbag. And I think that's what happened to him. Because, like, when he was young, like I said, we respected him, we liked him. He was trying to be great. All those old-time bodybuilders, they were cool. They looked good. They looked like real people that were just muscular. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Frank Zane. There's a whole bunch of other ones we like. Tom Platz, you know, Pumping Iron, the movie. It was all good stuff back in the day. Okay, so here's a couple Arnold Schwarzenegger quotes. The secret of success is to make your mind work for you. If you're going to wear gloves when you lift, make sure they match your purse. Okay. Back when I was young, everybody always joked about either get tough or you're a wussy, okay? And that was just normal. Nowadays, the country's so feminized, everyone's even like hesitant to make a joke. You know, ever since the beginning of time, normal men have been macho. That's just a fact of life, because if they weren't macho, their country would be conquered pretty fast. Okay, I'm reading some other book now. I'm reading that Tom Holland book, Dominion. And he just says, here's a typical, this is an Aristotle quote. Aristotle said, I am most grateful for three things. Number one, that I am a human and not a beast. Number two, that I am a man and not a woman. Because they thought women are kind of low. Men always thought they're way better than women. Just like I remember when I was a kid joking about girl germs and we're so glad we're boys, not girls. That's normal, that you're happy what you are, okay? And then the next thing he said, the third thing I am most grateful about, this is Aristotle, the ancient Greek philosopher, one of the smartest guys who ever lived, he said, is that I am a Greek and not a barbarian. And that's also normal, that every culture thinks it's the best and all the other cultures suck in comparison. And the Greeks especially, they felt that non-Greeks were barbarians, you know, only worthy of being slaves. And that's another thing too, that Christianity is one of the few cultures in the world today that thinks that everybody should be equal in the eyes of God. Most cultures, they think if you're not part of their culture or their religion, basically you suck, okay? And you're not entitled to anything. And if you think I'm kidding, study a little closer, okay? Most so-called religions aren't even religions. They're philosophies like Buddhism, Confucianism, Hinduism, okay? They're atheistic philosophies. Okay, let's see, continuing with Arnold Schwarzenegger, he says, the last 3 or 4 reps is what makes the muscle grow. That's what most people lack, having the guts to go on and just push through and say they'll go through the pain. The first step is to create a vision, because when you see a beautiful vision, that creates the one. I think he's right about that, because I've done a lot of tutoring of students. And one of the most frustrating things for me is when I talk to the students that are not doing well, I'm trying to get them into a mindset, get them psyched up. I know where achievement comes from, okay? And I can tell you, I talk to students, and the best of the best students, you know, the guys who are A++, and they sit there, they listen to every word I say, and they go, that's great, I'm going to do that, that's great, I'm going to do that. Because they get it, okay? And then when I talk to students who are having a hard time, they say things to me like, no one else does that. I know kids who are smart, who are A students, they don't do that. And I'm like, no shit, genius. I'm giving you advanced methods to go beyond them, to go beyond what you previously achieved. You have to do something new. If you keep on doing what you used to do, you'll get the same results. You got to do something new. But what I'm trying to say is Arnold's absolutely right about this. You have to have this vision of where you are headed, where you want to go, what you aspire to. And when you set that goal, then the energy will flow into you because you have a goal, you have a purpose, you have a reason for it. That's very important, because a lot of the difference between, you know, greatness and just mediocrity is vision and desire that gets the work ethic. There's lots of people who got talent and brains. There's not that many people that are really hard workers. You got to be a bit of a maniac, okay? If you don't want to be a maniac, then forget about high-level achievement. Okay, Arnold Schwarzenegger continues. I knew I was a winner back in the 1960s. I knew I was destined for great things. People will say, that kind of thinking is totally immodest. I agree. Modesty is not a word that applies to me in any way. I hope it never will. And I think that's good too. You know, modesty is for average people. If you want to be great at something, you have to say, I want to be great. I'm going to go for it. And, you know, I hung around tons of top level athletes. I've hung around a lot of top level scholars too. And they're not modest. The scholars are more modest than the athletes, but they're not modest. Okay, they know what they got. Charles Schultz, born in 1922. It was a dark and stormy night. He wrote the Peanuts comic strip, which was a great comic strip. I loved him, and I loved all the Charlie Brown Christmas special, Charlie Brown, you know, Easter special, and other stuff. You're a good man, Charlie Brown. Do what is absolutely you and nobody else. And I think there's some truth in that. It's like, how can you find a career or a hobby where you can express yourself in a creative, personal way? Because that's fun. It's fun to be yourself, to be the best version of yourself that you could be. There is no heavier burden than unfulfilled potential. Yeah, if you don't go for it, you'll regret it the rest of your life in terms of developing a talent that you have. You know, an artistic talent, or writing talent, or an athletic talent, whatever it might be. It bothered me for decades, the fact that I kept getting re-injured and I ruined my athletic career. That pissed me off. When I was by myself, I used to cry for years. I was so upset about it. Watching all my friends be world and Olympic and national champions, and me with my stupid injury. I mean, I did good, but nothing compared to what I had the potential to do. Okay, Charles Schultz continues. Friendship isn't about who you've known the longest. It's about the friend who comes and stands by your side in bad times. Yeah, that's the person who's really your friend, the one who's your friend when you're not on top of the world, you know, not in the high moments. Okay, Mark Schultz, and again, I did a video on him just yesterday with quotes from him and his brother Dave Schultz, but here's a little bit of Mark Schultz. And his book Foxcatcher is great. Anybody who's considering wrestling should read the book Foxcatcher. He said, to survive in the Oklahoma University wrestling room, I would have to do a heck of a lot more than merely step it up a notch. I would have to sacrifice my life and train as hard as my body, mind, and soul would permit me. I had no idea if I would be able to out-train, outsmart, outperform, and outsuffer everyone in my way. Yeah, the guy he was competing for the starting spot was an All-American. I think it was Shepard. Okay, so it's a great book, Foxcatcher. The movie I thought was kind of not so good because the director was a scumbag. He sort of made it about DuPont instead of about Mark Schultz. It should have been about Mark Schultz. But they made several other documentaries about Mark Schultz and Dave Schultz around that time that were very good. Okay, just a few more quotes here for today, and we're going to do Robert Schuman, the composer. And this is a great quote here. He says, talent works, genius creates. So that's kind of how I see it, like with doctors. You know, the smart doctors, the real smart ones, you know, are able to make AOA, top 10% of the class. Usually they got an IQ 135 to 150. You know, they're good students. They'll be competent at whatever they do. And there's lots of great doctors that don't make AOA in school. AOA just means that you are conscientious at memorizing stuff. It doesn't mean your heart's in the right place. It doesn't mean you give a rat's ass about patients. It doesn't mean you're even committed to medicine. It just means you're good at memorizing stuff. And lots of really good ones come from that weren't so great a student in med school. That is true. They just want to do right and they care for the patients. However, I do think he's getting at something here with this quote, talent works and genius creates. And why I'm saying this is, I know lots of bright doctors, and not a single one of them has any interest whatsoever in doing anything medically, creative, or writing a book, or any of that stuff. They make their money, and then they go enjoy their life, they enjoy their family. And I think that's a good life, okay? But what I'm trying to say is, for me, it's like once I had read all the nutrition, epidemiology literature, toxicology literature, and then I go back and I read the medical books, and I'm like, God, these medical books suck. It was like I felt morally obligated. I had to write all these books and correct all the conventional medical books because they're really bad. See, if your regular doctor only knows the conventional books, they think the conventional books are okay. That's what they were tested for their boards on. It's all there. Why would anybody want to write anything additional? But once you know nutrition, epidemiology, toxicology, then you lose all respect for conventional medical books. You realize they stink, they're a joke, they're an embarrassment. And then you want to create something else new. And it's the same thing too. You know, I was fascinated by art. I studied the art books and I'm like, God, all these professors suck. They try to pretend that modern art is the same as real art. And then they, you know, show all this other crap, you know, fat fertility, female goddess, and pretend that's like a Michelangelo. No, it's crap, you know. It's made by some third world savage. That's not real, you know, high quality sculpture. So then I felt I got to write books about art because it's not being done. Yeah, we kind of have a pussification of the modern man. So somebody needs to step up to the plate, noble masculinity, and do stuff. And I don't see anybody else doing it in a lot of areas, so that's why I do it. Somebody needs to do it, okay? And Christianity needs to stop being a doormat Christianity and start being noble masculinity again. Otherwise, it's going to go extinct, and it's the only thing that could save the world from a return to slavery. So anyways, those are some of the things that motivate me. All right, so Robert Schuman says, talent works, genius creates. And then as soon as he heard Frederick Chopin play, he said, hats off, gentlemen, a genius. Chopin was awesome. Okay. Anyways, that's the quotes for today. Hope you found them helpful.